So much has happened since we last talked, and I cannot wait to fill you in. So the last time that we were together, the thing that we were talking about was how I was so excited to plot out my series. And I had papers and papers spread out over the floor doing that thing where it's like I got to get into understanding where my story was going. That's really what I wanted to figure out. Is I felt like I knew the beginning, but I was like, how is this going to end? And I felt like I wanted to see that in sight so that I could tie up the stories all the way through. And I love to know where I'm going, know what to expect. And I felt like this being my first time writing a book, I wanted to have a little bit more understanding of what it would look like. So I got this book, Save the Cat. It was recommended to me by my friend's mom, who is also writing a novel. And I started to see this as I started to watch some like AuthorTube where they also are reading this. A lot of people are using this book. So I was like, okay, great resource. Oh my goodness, just reading this when John and I were working out of the house, we went to Dumbo Soho one day. And I was like, okay, so I finished my work for the day and then just kind of started reading about, each step of the way, what the opening image is. And I just started getting ideas. So then I started kind of sketching out what might my opening image be. And I just had this thought, what if I just started typing? So I pulled out my laptop and I just started typing and it just flowed so well. And like almost 900 words came out. And I kept saying pages. It was not pages. It was words. But it felt so fucking good. Like I couldn't believe it. And in that moment, I think it was kind of like a confirmation that yes, I'm ready to do this. Yes, writing a book is the thing that I'm supposed to be doing now at this point in my life. And I don't know how else to describe it besides it felt right and it felt excited and I was on a high and I was like, there's no way this high is going to stay because everyone talks about how hard it is. And I'm sure that that is true. And so what I've kind of done is I've gone back and forth because I've shared before that I'm a coaching and learning expert. And I also have an online program it's a coaching skills development program. And so what I've been in the middle of is transitioning to making that program be a little bit more independent. I do believe in courses, but I believe even stronger in community and having human like an aspect to it. So that program itself is never going to be like passive. Like I'm not trying to make passive income with it. But I have been setting it up so that I'm not teaching the sessions live so that I have so much more time to write here, which has been really exciting. And so I've been kind of going back and forth from setting that up, pre-recording the session. So then all of what I do with clients is just meet with them one-on-one or meet with them in a group setting, but I'm not also doing that and doing the teaching. So that gives me a lot more time back. And so I've been setting that up and then simultaneously kind of been taking one day to set that up and then another day to write. And so far, as of right now, when I look at I guess what we're going to call my manuscript, and I look at the word count, there's 5,376. Oh my goodness. And so I have just been really jonesing. Like, I almost feel like this is like an addiction where I'm like, I want to write. And I'm sure the days will be like, I have to write. But right now, I think what I want to do is that opening image came so clearly to me when we traveled to Boston to go see our great friends, Mike and Stacy, who when we moved to the East Coast, they also moved to the East Coast. We were neighbors in Portland and they moved to Boston 2 days after we moved to New York. So we kind of moved together because we're besties and we need to stay together. So we took the train up to visit them, and on the way up and on the way down, I also did some writing, but I also did more of reading Save the Cat. As I've continued to write, what's really interesting is I can kind of see different ways my book will go. And I'm sure authors have run into this before. It's like right now, there's a part in one chapter where it's like I have two different chunks, like two different half pages of like, which one do I want? And then that will tell where the story goes. And it will end up at like, that might only influence the next six. It'll influence everything, of course, but it would really strongly influence how they get to the next like midpoint or whatever. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now is I'm finding myself, because I'm taking the artistic liberty to move around the timeline of my life and move around events of my life and maybe pair them up with something that didn't happen just to create a point more. I'm not going to put every single thing that I've ever done in my life in this, or every single event that I had as a teen in here. But I'm kind of taking that artistic liberty to rearrange my personal timeline so that it tells the story in a stronger way. And one of the things that I'm kind of struggling with is, as I started writing, and I might have said this before, but as I started writing, I was kind of thinking that I would write just my life and then go back and add in the magical elements. But as I was doing Save the Cat, I'm realizing that some of the things, like for instance, in Save the Cat, they write about the underlying theme and then the overarching, like physical, like very obvious thing. But then the underlying is definitely the lessons that I learn as the story goes, like the life lessons I learned in my life. And there's certain characters that bring out that underlying theme. And I think that one of the characters that's going to bring out the underlying theme for me is a magical character. And if I don't kind of start looking at that now, then I think it's going to be confusing to bring it back in. Like there are some real human characters. So in book 1, I spoke about before in book 2, when those 2 parents are going to be the thing that kind of help get me through. And they're going to be the other magical women in the town that I live. But in book 1, there is a peer, like a high schooler, who kind of starts to show me a different way. It's when I like quit using drugs and things like that. But then it ends up being that she actually, even though she doesn't do drugs and she has like a safe family, she's not actually a great influence on me either, for different reasons. So it's kind of like the false victory if you're following Save the Cat. Along with that is when I wanted to find and guide like my magical creature. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be a phoenix. And I know we talked about that last time. I think I've decided on it being a phoenix. And I think that magical creature needs to also be the thing, that B-level character that is teaching me the lesson. And so I want to go back and I want to kind of reread this. Part of me feels like, would I just start over and almost like just start a second draft right now? I was kind of thinking, how many drafts do I need? I don't want to delete any of this. But I kind of think after the opening image, I might duplicate this Google Doc and see what it would be like to start with the dystopian vibes, to start with the magic right away, and see if it flows and feels a little bit more sure. Because as I've been going, I'm like, oh, I could go this way or this way, or this way or this way, or this way or this way. And so it's not kind of revealing itself. So today, that's kind of what I want to look at. I also just got this big fat ass notebook, and I think I'm gonna put all of this in here because it has pockets in it for me to keep all my notes in so I don't lose them. They're all in one place. So I think I'm going to start by kind of sorting that stuff out and then getting my booty ready to kind of take a take 2 already. Here we go. Let's see how it turns out. I'm trying to decide the best way to organize this notebook. Do I want to do it by books or by like events, characters, etc.? I think by books. Or I'll do notes in the front and then by books. The next thing that I'm thinking about is I want to really hash out my setting a little bit more. I worked on that, but one of the things that I realized was really helpful for me when I did the opening image is I hand wrote before and organized my thoughts before I went and typed. So as I'm coming back to this, I kind of want to handwrite my thoughts about the dystopian piece, handwrite out my thoughts about the magic piece before I go and type, because I think that like I said before, I'm a paper pen person, and I think that that's really going to help me organize and feel very differently. I'm also going to play some music. I didn't make my own playlist, but I do feel like the dystopian vibes, kind of the inspiration for how this starts, is kind of like Katniss starting in District 12 or 9, whichever one she lives in to begin with. Obviously need to refresh the book before I read the newest prequel just came out, and so I do need to get that. It's called The Reaping or something, can't remember. What I want to do is I want to use my notebook. In the front is just, I'm going to have a page on setting, and I just want to write all about the setting, write about the dystopian piece, write about these places before I start typing about them. I think that that's really going to help me organize my thoughts and make me feel more sure about where I'm going. I have done some looking at the town and describing a little bit more. And I think what I want to do is I set this scene more and go back to that opening image and the first chapters is really spelling out a little bit more in the dystopian world and a little bit less specific exactly in my world. So I think I'm ready to just start click clacking away. So I'm going to get going with that. I just copied that Google Doc and kind of started over and worked on kind of rewriting my opening image. I think that it just feels more powerful, more descriptive. It's more set up to be dystopian. You can see more of not just like me, but also more details about what the neighborhood looks like and things like that. So I think that was really powerful. So now what I want to do is I just want to do the exact same practice. I'm going to go through Save the Cat and I'm going to read. So the next beat that's set up is the theme stated. And so I'm going to read the chapter on theme stated, and I'm just going to take notes on what I think that that should feel like, what I think that should be like. And I have a couple different ideas of how I want that to go. I'm trying to decide if I want the theme stated to be stated by a teacher or if I want her to read it in a book. So I'm going to kind of write out both of those ideas and then see how that ultimately feels, like which one feels more aligned for this character and what she's going to be doing. I'm going to noodle on those ideas and see what comes to me there. And then I think I'm going to break for lunch. My stomach is growling. This actually gave me some great ideas that I'm really excited about trying and writing. So as I get back to the writing, I'm loving this process of reading the Save the Cat, kind of doing a noodle download, writing it by hand to get some ideas. I wrote down like a few different people that she could run into, that she could talk to a few different ways. And I was like, one was like too on the nose. Like she was reading in a book and there was like a fantasy character in her book that saw her own power. And I'm like, that's literally what's happening to my character. Way too on the nose. And then I thought about her teacher and I still just don't really like that very much. And then I was like, well, what might the person actually say? So then I went back to the whole point of this part is that the character is getting a hint at what her life lesson, her deeper lesson really is. I have the quote of what the person would say. And when I said that, I was like, oh, that sounds really good. And the reason why I realized that quote was really good is because I immediately had Judy's response to it. If her name's going to be Judy, but I immediately had her response of what she would say. So I outlined that and I want to keep it. And then I was like, who is this person? I kind of think that I might change where this person saying this also gives her the egg. And so I think she's going to be at the grocery store and it's just going to be a stranger at the grocery store who lives on the other side of the tracks in like the affluent part of town. But they're at the same grocery store and she's buying eggs. And I think in that group of eggs, when she gets it home and opens it, there's going to be a different egg. And that's going to be the one that hatches into the phoenix. So I feel really excited about this. I'm really excited to write this. I'm going to get going to write it. I'm going to start writing it. John's on his way home and will be home any minute. And I cannot wait to update him because even though he doesn't read books, he's really excited for mine, which as he should be. So I'm going to type until he arrives. Just came home from his errands and look what he surprised me with. Gonna put them on my desk for even more happy book writing vibes. I was doing some beef, but not.
Amazing.
But basically, I just went back to the original 900 words and erased the rest. One of my favorite things ever is when John brings me home flowers and I get to trim them and arrange them in my own vase. So we are going to do that while you and I catch up about how awesome today's writing session was. So I ended before how I'd kind of shared with you my first go around of writing my book. And I think I'd gotten to about 5,300 words or something like that. And I decided today that I was starting over because I just didn't like the way I was approaching it, where I had so many different ideas and I was trying to arrange them in an order that makes sense. Say hi, babe.
Hi, babe.
My biggest book cheerleader right there. But I was just kind of what's it called? The difference between plantering or pantsering, being a planter or a pantser. I was doing too much by the seat of my pants and it wasn't comfortable for me. And so this approach has felt so much better, where I'm looking at the full story view and putting all of that together as I go. It was so much fun for me because I felt not confused. And I think feeling confused takes all the fun out of what I do personally. I don't enjoy that feeling. So today I went back and started all over. I basically started at the first 900 words that I wrote, that I told you about in the very beginning of this, because I still really love those. And I still feel like those started with the dystopian kind of vibes. I went back and focused on them and added way more detail, really just expanded on the setting, and that felt really, really awesome. And I just started flowing into chapter 2, and that's where I showed you I stopped and I went through Save the Cat and looked at the theme statement and came up with some way better ideas than what I had before. And so I'm really excited I kind of have the skeleton of that created and written out, but I'm really excited to flesh that out more and make that more clear. And I really like the direction that this is going now. And I think I needed that practice of just going by the seat of my pants and trying to figure it out, to know that that's not the way I wanted to do that. Everything we do in life is an experiment. And so often you need to actually try something to know if it's for you or not. Turns out that's not for me, which if I were to really sit and ask myself, I probably could have predicted that, but that's okay. That, I think, is how I'm going to approach the rest of this. I think I'm going to keep going through Save the Cat and then write, keep going through Save the Cat and write. I might write some more today, but I did have a coaching call. I have one coaching call on Fridays with the mastermind that I'm in. It's not book writing related. That kind of threw me off my writing game. So we'll see if I write any more today. But for now, I definitely want to get my flowers set up.